Yo, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to my review for the fifth episode of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. As usual, I'll be going over the good, the bad, and the mixed aspects of the episode. And without further ado, let's just hop right into the review, and more specifically, the good aspects of this episode, which there was a lot of. And overall, it was a great episode. It was very enjoyable to watch. One thing I noticed was that the music was very noticeable, if that's if that makes any sense. I noticed previously in the other episodes, in the past four, I didn't really notice the music, or it didn't stand out as much as I wanted it to, or it didn't stand out kind of like how, well, thinking about The Mandalorian, when I'm listening or I'm watching this show, the music stands out to me. It fits the theme of the show, and it flows very smoothly. And so far, for the past four episodes, I haven't really got that feel from the Kenobi series, but in this episode, the music was great. You had the music for, Tala's death, which was emotional. The music fit that. Also, the duel with Reva and Vader. The music, it was very intense, and I really liked that. And also the music for the duel between Anakin and Obi-Wan for the flashback. The music fit very well. So overall, the music in this episode was really good. Um, Another thing was Anakin and Obi-Wan, their flashbacks. I believe this might be, I think this might be pre-episode 2. This might be a pre-episode or pre-Attack of the Clones flashback because Anakin, he still has his braid, but I believe that lightsaber is the lightsaber that ends up getting destroyed inside the Geonosian factory. But overall, I really like the banter between Anakin and Obi-Wan, and the show kind of foretells what's going to happen or what happens with Anakin. We see that he's too focused on, well, in the duel, he's too focused on trying to win the duel, and it blinds him. And that's the same thing that's going to probably happen with Vader. It does happen to Vader, since this is a more, I would say, this is not the same Vader that we see in the original trilogy, that who's more focused and who's more, I would say, patient than he's ever been. I mean, he still has kind of that hot-headedness, I guess, that Anakin had. I mean, even Obi-Wan says that his focus or his determination to win kind of blinds him, and it gets in the way of him, trying to actually, be patient, and do what he needs to do in order to win the duel. And even though he, does win to some extent in the beginning, or he gets the upper hand, eventually, Obi-Wan beats him, which kind of sets up what happens, or what will happen at the end of the series. And also it sets up the when I left you, I was but the learner, now I am the master. And then Obi-Wan kind of references how unless he, gets his stuff under control, that he'll still be a Padawan. Or he said something along those lines. I can't remember the exact line. But overall, Anakin in this episode was really good. It was good to see Hayden actually back, as Anakin Skywalker, because throughout the series so far, I think we only saw Anakin was when, I think was it episode 3, when he was, when Vader was, had his assembling scene that we saw a brief view of Hayden. I believe that was him that was underneath the suit until the helmet came on. And I was about to be really disappointed because they had all this press and they had all this hype for Hayden returning, but so far we didn't really see that much from him. So now we actually do see a lot from him. And speaking of Hayden and briefly Rebel, we saw some of the brief Order 66 flashbacks about Anakin in the temple, him slaughtering the younglings, and then we saw, a little bit of background with Obi-Wan and Reva about how, she was in the temple and I guess she was stabbed by Vader, but somehow she ended up surviving, which I'm going to touch on later, and my thoughts on that. But also it just shows how it touched on her plan to actually kill Vader, which I thought was very surprising. I thought she wanted to just be the Grand Inquisitor to gain his favor, but I guess that's a twist or a turn that I didn't expect, which, I'm not complaining about, because it does make sense, and especially how we can probably understand her rage or determination to find Obi-Wan all this time, because as she says in the episode, where were you when he was doing all these horrible things, to her family that she references to, and that's the only family that she ever knew. So I can understand, now that we actually have a bigger picture of what happened to her intentions, her character is, I would say, much better, and I can, I guess, understand and empathize with her character more now that we have this information. Speaking of Reva, we saw her duel with Vader, or, Vader toying with Reva in this episode. After Obi-Wan and the refugees, I will call them, end up leaving, we see that Reva tries to kill Vader, and then you just see Vader and his awesomeness and his savagery, just, dodging the lightsaber, just showing that he's toying with her. She's no challenge to him. And then eventually when he grabs her lightsabers, both of them, or he just kind of puts them apart like the Inquisitors are able to. He just tosses her one and just says like, let's go. And as soon as she starts attacking him, he just, dodges out the way. He throws the lightsaber, which she repels, but then he ends up grabbing on her lightsaber, and then he ends up getting the other one, and then he just stabs her. Just shows how brutal Vader is and how powerful he is, and that the Inquisitors are, nowhere near his power. And also we have the Return of the Grand Inquisitor. I knew he wasn't dead. Of course he wouldn't, because they would break canon, but we've already had some inconsistencies in the show. But I'm not going to touch on that in this video, because this video is more positive, I would say, or it has more good things about the episode. And also, a rest in peace to Tala, because her character was very enjoyable in the show. I really liked her character. And just to see her go, especially with the music going on, it was very an emotional scene. So it was good to see her in the end of her character arc. Maybe we'll see her someday in a comic or something, because I'm sure that's not the last that we'll see of Tala. And I think this might be the end of the good section. Overall, it was a great episode with many good things going on. So I guess we can move on to one aspect of the mixed episode. On to the mixed aspect of the show. The only thing I have listed is Reva surviving being stabbed by a lightsaber twice. And the reason for this is, it's not because I have any type of hate against the character. I actually empathize with her character. I think she's a better character now. But the reason for this is because we know that she was stabbed by Anakin when she was a child, probably around, I would say, since she's still a Jedi youngling, she's not really a Padawan. So I would say around maybe 9, maybe 10 years old, maybe 11 years old. She's being stabbed by a lightsaber by Anakin Skywalker. And then later, this is 10 years later, she might be in her early 20s, she's stabbed again by a lightsaber. The reason for this is because, as we know, if you're stabbed by a lightsaber, you're pretty much done. Majority of the time, you're done. There are instances, I believe, where a couple people have survived or been close to death. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because, as we know, Qui-Gon Jinn was stabbed the same way Reva was stabbed by Darth Maul, and he died. But Darth Maul was sliced in half by Obi-Wan, and he survived, so people can conclude, oh, well, why are you, I guess, critical or criticizing the fact that Reva survived when Darth Maul survived? Well, the reason is because they are trained both differently, and they have different relationships with the dark side. As we know with Maul was trained by Darth Sidious, and it was brutal training, to say the least. Maul's body and his mind were all trained in order to, I guess, deal with Sidious's, training methods, which were nonetheless hardcore. But as we know, Maul always relies on anger. When he was sliced in half, the only thing that was keeping him, survive was his relationship to the dark side, his dark emotions, things of that nature. However, Reva, on the other hand, was trained as a Jedi youngling, but she was trained most likely by Vader, who trains all the Inquisitors. And then her relationship with the dark side is different than Maul's. And the reason for this is because Maul was trained as a Sith assassin, as I said, by Palpatine. But even though he wasn't trained as an actual Sith apprentice, he's closer to that role than Reva is, which means his relationship with the dark side is stronger than Reva's is. However, Reva, on the other hand, was first trained as a Jedi, and then she's basically a dark Jedi. Maul is not a dark Jedi. Maul is, in terms of these two, more like a Sith apprentice than Reva, because Reva doesn't use the dark side, or can't use the dark side. The main reason is because Reva can't use the dark side like Maul can. The reason for this is because that's not the Inquisitor's purpose. The Inquisitor's purpose is to, I would say, kill low-level knights, Padawans, and younglings. That's who their match is against. That's the highest that they can go against. Thinking about someone like Maul, who's able to take down Jedi Masters, Jedi Knights, because of his training. Reva is not on that same level. Her relationship with the dark side is not on that same level. And we can even see with even Rebels. We think about Rebels, the fifth brother and the sixth sister, I think, and I forgot who else is the eighth brother, I think, maybe. We see in Rebels, they're going against Kanan Jarrus, who at this time I'm not sure is a Jedi Knight yet or a Jedi Padawan, but he's one of those low-level knights that they should be able to take care of, and they're not able to take care of him. I think Ahsoka kills one, and then Maul kills both of them. I think Maul kills the fifth brother, and he kills the sixth sister. Well, my memory is foggy. But either way, the Inquisitors are meant to deal with low-level Jedi. Maul, as a Sith apprentice or Sith assassin, was trained to deal or do combat against, or win in combat against people of a higher level than he is, which means that his ability to use the dark side is higher than Reva's, if this argument makes any sense. So Reva does not have the same type of anger and the same type of hatred and the same type of relationship with the dark side that Maul is able to have, which is why he's able to survive being, sliced in half, which is more, dark side users to have always, um, have a special, not a special, but have a twisted relationship with the Force and the dark side because by using these dark emotions, they're able to survive past their mains. But on the other hand, the reason why the Grand Inquisitor is able to survive is because he has two stomachs. And as we know, he's a different species. He's not a human. Humans are kind of basic. Now, I wouldn't say basic. They're more of the normal, I would say, body levels in Star Wars. But these other species have pros and cons to them. And then I think Maul being, one of uh, the Dathomirian Zabrak Knight brothers. There's multiple names for him, but because Maul's species and genetic makeup is different, the Reva is able to survive along with his relationship with the dark side, whereas Reva is not able to. Realistically, she as a child should have been killed, but even if she wasn't killed, if she was the sole survivor of that attack, she should not be able to live again based off her anger alone because her anger doesn't amount to Maul's anger, if that makes any sense. But this is all I have for the mixed aspects, so let's go on to, I would say, the bad or the things that I don't agree with um, or wish was better in this episode. Now, with the bad section, um, overall, I would just say before I get into this, overall the episode was great. There was a great things going on, but there was a couple not nitpicks or a couple of things I had problems with, and two I have are first, it's the runtime. The runtime was a total of 42 minutes. The intro and then the recap were 2 minutes, and then the credits were 6 minutes. So it was around 34 minutes, I would say, of an episode, which might be decent in some people's eyes, but I think that for a 6 episode series that's supposed to be kind of like a 6 hour long movie, I wish this episode was longer. It was just a little over it, a regular, I would say, TV show that goes on for 22 minutes, but then has like around like 8 minutes of, commercials or whatever. But the whole point is, I just wish that this episode was longer, or the series episodes were longer as a result, because that way we could feel like, it's a 6 hour movie and it's a mini series, so I think it should go on for longer. But besides that, the main issue that I've had is Reva knowing about Luke. So if you didn't know already, I'm not going to go deep into it, but the ending was that, just not giving away any spoilers, the ending for the Kenobi show, which leaked, I think maybe about a month ago or 2 months ago, was that Reva was going to find out about Luke, just in the simplest of terms without giving really anything away, but it's all looking to be confirmed now. And the reason for this is because a lot of people, including myself, have an issue with Reva finding out or connecting the dots between, Obi-Wan and the Organas and Luke and Anakin and Vader. She already knows Anakin is Darth Vader, which that's fine. They explain the reasons why, which I'm perfectly good with. But I'm not good with her going to Tatooine and messing with Luke. Because the thing is, when she does go to Tatooine, because it's implied that she's going to go, and she goes and then she attacks Luke, or she attacks the homestead, or, she does whatever she wants to do, then how does that kind of breaks canon? Because then, as we know, Luke doesn't know anything about the Jedi, or he doesn't know anything about the Sith or about the Inquisitors or whatever. And the only way they can fix that is if they have Obi-Wan kind of mind wipe him, I guess, to forget about that event. But at the same time, I don't think that would fly by with me. They just kind of, because he has to do the same thing with Reva. I mean, not the same thing with Reva. He has to do the same thing with Leia, because Leia knows that Ben Kenobi, or Ben the Jedi, and Obi-Wan Kenobi, they're the same individual. So there's a lot of things going on. People saying that he might, or Leia might, get a concussion so she forgets, or Obi-Wan might, I guess, wipe Luke's memory or Leia's memory. These are all things that might work, but in a writing standpoint, it doesn't really seem that good, writing-wise. I mean, like, you're kind of going to the show is already, I would say, going against canon anyway, so you're kind of interfering with some other things that break canon. Another thing, I'm going on the rant here, I know, but what's the purpose of this? If we already know, what's the purpose of her going to Tatooine when we know that everything's going to be fine as a result, right? There's no stakes. There's no point. This is what happens when you kind of do these prequels. Even with, like, the prequel trilogy, we know how everything ends up. But these are the things that happen with the shows in between, I would say, when you already have these movies that are already established and where the characters are already going to go. But then you have these other shows that are going in and trying to fill in those gaps, but they're trying to do all these things that are really limited. And even with the Star Wars comics, I would say, in the new Star Wars comics, you have these comics with Luke and Leia and Lando and Chewie between episodes 5 and 6, and they're trying to this whole thing with like Crimson Dawn. Like there's only so much you can do between the time of the movies, especially if it's like 1 year. I mean, they can do it with Obi-Wan. The thing is, they can only do so much within that time frame before they start messing with canon, as we see with the show that's already messing with canon. And even then, and if you guys didn't know that the writer for the show didn't even know that Obi-Wan knew that Anakin was Darth Vader. I mean, he clearly knows. If you didn't know, if you watch Revenge of the Sith again, that when Obi-Wan's in the Jedi Temple, he sees Anakin slaughtering all the young ladies in the Jedi in the temple, like Sindralik and the two people that he was training with or he was teaching. Palpatine ends up going to the temple, and then he's talking Anakin and calls him Lord Vader. But besides that point, the point is when you do these things and you go in and they're trying to, even though it may be interesting to some extent to have these characters go a certain way, but then the story, it kind of messes with everything. It doesn't really match up with the whole thing of the story, which is why writing this series, especially a show like Kenobi, you should make sure that you're extra careful that it doesn't break canon. But something like this, like what's the purpose of this? Why is she going to Tatooine? Is she going to try to kill Luke at a revenge of Anakin Skywalker? And why is she? Just the question is why. Um, I'm going on a rant a little bit, I know, but this is the whole issue of Reva going to see Luke or going to the Lars homestead, which has been leaked. And if you can't, if you want to know more about this or how the episode will end, just go to Bespin Bulletin's website or his Instagram or something like that. Or just watch a couple YouTube videos about it. There's plenty. But I just think that this is a bad idea. It's not even really a bad idea. It's just a waste of time because we know nothing's going to happen to Luke. We know nothing's going to happen to Leia. They're going to have their minds wiped, or they're going to forget, or they're going to suffer a concussion and hit their head. That way they can't remember anything that happened in the past few days, or with Luke in the past hour, I would say. But I think this is the end of my rant. I still have much more to say, but I don't want to make this longer than it has to be. So overall, for this episode, I really enjoyed this episode. It was a great episode. They had a lot of things going on. The music was great. The characters were great. The interactions were really good. Vader was outstanding as usual. Obi-Wan was great in this episode too. I'm glad we saw a better Obi-Wan that's trying to sympathize or trying to, I guess, see the good in people, trying to understand or be more empathetic, as I would say, as Obi-Wan or Ben Kenobi. But overall, this show was good. I had a few gripes with the episode, but overall, I'm not going to let that get in the way of me enjoying this episode. And next week will be the series finale, or supposedly the season finale, since they're, I guess, doing a season 2. But more on that next week. Once I get more confirmation with that, I can, I guess, let you guys know. But if you have any different opinions regarding the show or just like to say something in general, make sure you let me know and I'll respond to your comment. But otherwise, it was a great episode overall, and hope to see you guys next week in the next review. Hopefully, you guys have a good day and the rest of your week, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.